Good scheduling leads to effective discussions. In modern workplaces, where time is scarce and meetings are endless, the difference between a successful discussion and a wasted one lies not in duration, but in how it's prepared. Scheduling may appear administrative, but at the strategic level, it is the art of shaping collective energy and thinking. A good meeting schedule not only reflects operational clarity, also signals respect for participants' time, roles, and mental presence. The question is, how can we design schedules that are not just tight, but thoughtful, enabling the right conversations with the right people at the right depth? An effective meeting begins not with words, but with the calendar. When you manage the schedule, you don't just manage time, you design collective thinking. Scheduling may seem like an administrative act, but it is, in essence, an organizational declaration. A meeting schedule does not just state when we gather, it reveals what we value, who is essential, and what takes precedence. A hastily arranged meeting sent at odd hours with unclear purpose does more than confuse. It erodes the spirit of preparation. In contrast, a well-crafted schedule with reasonable timing, attached pre-reads, and advance notice creates mental space for anticipation, thought, and presence. Participants arrive not as passive listeners, but as active co-thinkers. Scheduling, then, becomes the architecture of attention, energy, and behavioral intent. It shapes whether meetings lead to resolution or simply extend indecision. An organization that schedules well is one that lines up thinking. It knows people aren't lacking ideas, they're lacking the right setting to explore them. When that setting is designed, depth naturally follows. That is why scheduling, when understood fully, becomes an art of intellectual environment design. An effective meeting doesn't merely begin with a time slot, it begins with a prepared mental state. And that state depends entirely on how the schedule is designed. A meeting scheduled too early catches people in haste and mental fog. Too late finds them drained and disengaged. Midday or end-of-day meetings often breed the "let's just get through this" mindset. Add to that the absence of a clear purpose and many arrive unaware, unready, uninvested. A powerful schedule is not just a slot on the calendar, it is a designed moment of shared cognition. When organizers choose timing aligned with team chronobiology, workload rhythm, and emotional recovery after major events, meetings become synchronizations, not interruptions. A meeting is effective not only because the content is good, but because it happens at the right time, when people are open, alert, and energized. Therefore, a skilled scheduler is not merely a logistical manager, but a human behavior strategist. And that kind of understanding is where effective dialogue truly begins. No one wants to attend a meeting just to fill a chair. Yet it happens far too often, especially when meetings are scheduled without regard to actual roles or contribution levels, inviting the entire department or reusing old attendee lists just to be safe. Reflects organizational vagueness in goals and a failure to distinguish between physical and cognitive presence. An effective meeting begins with a curated participant list who truly contributes, decides, challenges, or implements. Scheduling is also the moment to define roles: who presents, who facilitates, who observes. When each attendee comes in with role clarity, they carry corresponding psychological intent. The facilitator controls flow. The presenter prepares content. The challenger tracks logic and feasibility. This prevents time waste from functional ambiguity and maximizes efficiency through role-aligned rhythm. Deep scheduling isn't just time management, it is resource strategy in motion. And when people feel they're not included by default, but invited with intention, they show up with presence and commitment. A highly underestimated factor in scheduling is the ability to create logical rhythm across a sequence of meetings. Not all meetings are isolated. Many are part of a connected chain. A product development discussion, followed by a testing review, and then a launch strategy session. When these are scheduled out of sync, say, Holding the decision meeting before testing data is available the whole process. Gets bottlenecked or forced into intuition-based decisions. A skilled scheduler sees not just single meetings, but a continuum of organizational cognition, entry points, transitions, and decision junctions. Strategic scheduling turns meetings into a thinking symphony, where time isn't consumed sporadically, but invested in structured progression. This requires not just administrative skill, but systems vision and interdepartmental orchestration. That flow creates organizational experience. Employees feel alignedly lost in fragmented discussions. Leaders gain a clearer overview and make decisions at the right moment with the right input and the right team. In group psychology, one key to effective discussion is shared cognitive state, where participants share common understanding of goals, background information, and process logic. This doesn't begin with the meeting, it begins with how the meeting is prepared. A well-designed schedule serves as a cognitive ignition point, where people arrive having read pre-materials, aligned on expectations, and knowing why they're present. The discussion then starts, not from scratch, but from a higher plane: critique, analysis, and decision-making. Conversely, when participants enter with uneven comprehension, meetings regress into repetition, clarification, and time-wasting warm-ups. A schedule with context, goals, key contacts, and pre-reads is not overhead. It's a time-saving and quality-ensuring mechanism. An organization that invests in subtle scheduling respects the cognitive bandwidth of its people. Because when you help others prepare well, you empower their thinking. And when minds arrive, pre-activated meetings become idea convergences, not idea searches. In many organizations, stagnation doesn't stem from a lack of ideas, but from overlapping schedules, uncoordinated calendars, and zero buffers between critical discussions. When a meeting ends at 10 o'clock and the next begins at 10 o'clock, there is no room for reflection. Participants carry the residue of one meeting into the next, starting in fragmented, distracted thinking. Scheduling without psychological buffers reduces organizational cognitive performance. Those seemingly empty minutes before and after meetings are actually when humans process information and reorganize. Cognition. A good scheduler is like a conductor, only starting on time but managing pauses. Deep scheduling builds organizational breathing space where brains recharge, reconnect logic, and emotionally prepare for the next sequence. A good schedule isn't dense, it has rhythm. And rhythm is the precondition for all deep thinking. Ultimately, scheduling is not a logistical task, it is a philosophical act. Because how we allocate time reveals what we value. A carefully scheduled meeting demonstrates respect for knowledge, preparation, and participant cognition. A casually thrown together meeting signals that thinking is something to be squeezed in and quality cannot arise from invisibility. When an organization schedules with care, it begins building a culture of care. That culture not only enhances performance, but fosters a sense of being seen, understood, and ready to contribute meaningfully. Scheduling is the art of asking, when is the right moment to think? Who needs to be there to decide? What space is needed for mental readiness? These are not questions for an assistant, they are for an organizational architect. Because if discussion is the heart of a learning organization, then scheduling is the bloodline that keeps it pulsing, rhythmic, and alive. An organization that conducts meaningful discussions is an organization that begins with a calendar. Because every thoughtful conversation needs structural support, the schedule is that structure. It is not just a time slot, it is a reflection of culture. We value preparation. We prioritize group cognition. We create the right conditions for ideas to emerge and evolve. When we schedule well, we don't just run meetings, we help people fully show up in shared thought. Look at how you use your calendar. Is it merely a tool, or is it a space for strategic thinking? If you want to improve the quality of dialogue in your organization, begin with how you schedule. And if you see the value in this, share the message with those drowning in meetings without purpose, roles, or energy. Because when we improve how we schedule, we improve how we think together.